Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. My name is Peter Rosenbaum, and it is my pleasure to share with you some ideas about how we're thinking about childhood disability in the 21st century. I'm going to share my screen and present some ideas that are available in the literature, and I've given you the reference to that. I'm going to turn my face off so I'm not in the way. First of all, congratulations on your National Day of Cerebral Palsy. I hope you find these ideas helpful. Uh, I have been a pediatrician for a very long time, and I'm wanting to show you how some of my own development has evolved because the things that I've learned over many years have moved me beyond thinking about specific diagnosis and specific treatments to think more broadly about child and family development and ways that we can be helpful. And what I will share with you are ideas about how to expand our thinking, not because the things we've done are wrong, but because they have not taken a big enough picture of all of the things that are happening. And this is up to you to judge. These ideas are free. Literally, you can find this paper in the journal, and it is open access, which means you can download it and have it for your library if you wish. And I'll leave this here so you can photograph this reference. I want to talk about six ideas briefly that concern our thinking about child onset disabilities like cerebral palsy. First, to think about health and the World Health Organization's framework and how CanChild has tried to bring these ideas to life with what we call the F words for child development. I want to talk about briefly the idea that development is a universal force in childhood, even in children with impairments. I will talk about how parents and family are the essential environment for children, and that I don't think we have taken full advantage of the opportunities to work with them, not just as therapists, but as parents. I talk a little bit about parenting, which I like to think of as a dance led by the children. I will briefly refer to a life course perspective. In other words, thinking beyond the children and the child years that we are familiar with in most of our work, and a little bit about knowledge translation. Who needs to know these ideas, and how do we do that? Now, I can imagine that many people will say, oh, yes, this all sounds familiar. We know this. Why are you telling us what's new? And I will say three things that are important. One is how we emphasize these concepts. The second is how they are connected. And how, thirdly, the World Health Organization's framework for health brings these ideas together. And again, you can judge whether this is helpful. We have pretty good evidence that it is helpful. So I've said six ideas. I'm actually going to talk about five of them. The first is to think beyond our medical traditions of diagnosis and treatment, and to emphasize promoting development and functioning. Second of all, to recognize how the World Health Organization's ideas about health, with its ICF framework, which I will show you, how this set of ideas opens new opportunities for our work. Thirdly, I want to emphasize how important it is to promote family as the center of all our work. Family as our patient, if you want to think about it that way. Fourth, we need to move beyond fixing and normal. Fixing's a wonderful idea. We can't do it very often in healthcare. And normal is a problem, as I'll try to comment. And finally, to think about taking a life course perspective, because children with cerebral palsy grow up to become adults with cerebral palsy. and we know much less about their lives than we should. And I'll try not to overfeed you in this brief presentation, but there will be opportunities for discussion, and I encourage you very strongly to ask your questions and to challenge me and to say, yes, but. So let me show you a child whose picture we found on the internet, and we really like this picture. So what we see depends on how we're thinking. We can easily focus on problems. His seating looks to be terrible. What he can't do. We want to know what his diagnosis is. What's the cause of his cerebral palsy? What's his GMFCS level? We focus on what he can't do and probably won't be able to do. And we then think about whether he needs more therapy, whether he needs better equipment, whether he needs to go to a special school. Now, for those of you who can read English, you'll see at the bottom of the picture, there's a little blackboard and it says first day of junior kindergarten. And we want to know what his long-term prognosis is. I'll come back to him and he'll come back to us in a few minutes. So if we start by thinking about how the World Health Organization's framework for health enables us to bring together things we kind of know. The biological and biomedical aspects of a condition are the things we're traditionally concerned about. The psychological or the within person aspects of people's lives we know are important, but we don't traditionally spend as much time asking about, listening for those things. And then, of course, every child we see lives in an environment. All of us live in an environment which has many, many aspects to it and which influences all our lives. And this framework, the ICF framework, is a biological, psychological, social, or biopsychosocial approach. And we need to pay attention to all of these things. This is the ICF, or International Classification of Functioning Framework. And you'll see at the top that we have health condition, and because we're talking about cerebral palsy today, that's what's there. But if we were a group of adult professionals, we might have Alzheimer's disease or macular degeneration. The point is that any health condition has something going on in body structure and function, probably, in fact, almost always affects our activity, our daily life. It may interfere with our ability to participate in life in ways that are meaningful for us. And the World Health Organization expects us to think about personal factors, what makes this child and this family with cerebral palsy a unique unit, and think about environmental factors that influence their lives. We like this framework because it's a framework for health for everyone in the world. The words are neutral. We're talking about activity and participation and personal factors, and everything is interconnected. And in this dynamic system, where we start our intervention is less important than we used to think. And this we like because it focuses on what people can do. And so again, we say, don't we already know this? And the answer is yes, we sort of do, but no, we don't. People know the words and the ideas. They make sense in English and in Portuguese and hopefully in other languages. But most of us are not thinking this way, and we're not applying these ideas carefully enough and in an integrated way. And so the words make sense, but so that means we think we know them and do them, but we usually don't, or not as well as we could. Now, in 2011, my colleague Jan Willem Gorter and I wrote a paper called The F Words in Childhood Disability. And it was an effort by us to bring together the World Health Organization ideas with simple F words, now called my favorite words. And this paper has had a considerable impact around the world. And again, it is free. You'll see on the bottom how you can find it with the link to our website and where the paper is downloadable for free. And you'll see that it's been downloaded almost 100,000 times. Now, what you see is the same picture I showed you 3 or 4 slides ago, but now with our F words to help people remember things like body structure and function, that we're interested in fitness, physical fitness, and mental health. Activity, we're interested in functioning, and it doesn't have to be done beautifully. With participation, because we work with children, we emphasize friendships because friendships and social development are so important in childhood. Personal factors, fun. What is fun for this child, and how can we take advantage of what's fun for them so that we can build our ideas about therapy around things children already want to do? And finally, and obviously, the environment in which children grow up is family. Now, we're still interested in the best of our therapies, but the questions we now ask are, what is the purpose of this therapy? What are we trying to achieve? And how does a change in body structure and function make a difference to functioning or to social relationships? With respect to family, it's essential to be aware of the social determinants of health. If we recommend something to a family and they can't get to the service, or the service doesn't exist, or they can't afford it, then it's not going to be working. And we need to think about being family centered. Family centered service is an approach that I'll talk a little bit about that engages families with their goals and voices. With respect to these elements of friendships and fun, we want to think of the person as an individual. And this framework allows us to capture the person with the condition, not just the condition. This is one of the many ways in which we've tried to bring these ideas together. The smaller boxes are the World Health Organization's framework, and our framework and our ideas are outside of those in the bigger boxes and with pictures that illustrate this. And we have many versions of this slide with pictures and language that reflect different cultures around the world. Now, we added the word future to remind people that when we're working with children and families, we're working with a constantly changing and developing system. So, this is not a new measure. There's no score. It is a way of creating a word picture or, in fact, a photographic picture. And if you go to our website, you will find lots of ways of doing this, and they're free. This approach does not say professionals are wasting their time. It does not say therapy is not important. It does not challenge those things. What it tries to do is increase the roles of children, families, and their voices, emphasize their goals and their values, sees the child as a person, not just as a case, in the context of their family and their environments. And it changes the dynamic between professionals and families because it engages the family actively. This framework serves everyone. And I hope that you'll see that these ideas are all interconnected, which means that we can start our intervention anywhere in the system and everywhere in the system, recognizing that a change in the environment might change activity and participation and so on. And so, in talking about them separately, we're just doing this as it's convenient to reflect on and think about each of these ideas separately. So here's our friend again. And now what we want to focus on is what he can do. First of all, you'll see that he's a happy fellow. Second of all, you'll see that he's going to school. He has mobility to get to school. And we want now to promote his development, child and family strengths, his achievements, what he can do. We want to be family centered, and we want to think about this boy's life beyond childhood. What we want to de-emphasize is therapy that is aimed at fixing, because all the therapy in Portugal and all the therapy in Canada will not fix his cerebral palsy. We want to stop thinking about normal because it's a silly idea. If he can do things he wants to do and can achieve, then let's celebrate that. Finally, we need to recognize that, that the modern thinking about disability is that disability is a social idea. This boy is ready to go to school. He wheels up to school in his power mobility, and he gets to school, and there are stairs, and he can't get into the school. He is disabled by the environment. He's ready and able to go to school and learn. He can't go there because of factors and forces outside of him. Very important idea. I want to talk a little bit about development because children are constantly changing. I hope that people listening to this talk are learning something. I hope that as adults we can still learn. That's my goal in life. But children are changing rapidly, and that means that any F words profile or picture or account of the person is only an account of today. And the next time we see the child and family, we need to find out how things are going now because things have changed. Isn't this obvious? Yes, of course it's obvious, and yet we don't think about it that way. I have been training and working in this field for over 5 decades. I work in a field called developmental disability, and then the first word gets lost. The whole point about developmental disability is that we need to think about the impact on child and family development of an impairment like cerebral palsy. What does the cerebral palsy do that may make this child's life more complicated or at least different? And how can we take advantage of that in focusing on his development? And you see here 3 children. They're all different children. And how we think about them and how we work with them has to be individualized. Family development, we emphasize, because families are constantly changing. And anybody listening to this talk who's a parent can think about how your interaction with your children and how your own personal development as a parent has changed and evolved as your children have changed and evolved. And so the system of family is changing. And so we want to know from families and ask them about what are their current issues? What are they thinking about? What is your child doing well now? What questions and concerns do you have now? How are you doing as a parent? And again, this is a free, open access idea. It's just one page talking about the importance of family in our work in child health. The third and obvious idea is that parents and families are the children's essential environment. I've been doing this work for over 50 years. I've never seen a child come in on their own and ask for help. And I believe that the unit of interest in all our work in child health must be family. That means that has implications for what we do and how we do it. This means both the content of our intervention and the processes of our services must respect parents' experience and expertise. And this is something a parent said to me some years ago. This is a parent I work very closely with now. She said, "You have textbooks, we have storybooks." And I think these 7 English words summarize so powerfully what parents bring to the story, what parents bring to the clinic, which is their stories, and what we know from our learning as professionals. And again, this is available for people to read. You can listen to the podcast that Elizabeth, the parent, and I did together. And this idea talks about the important connection between our skills as professionals, our expertise, our experience, and the parents' skills and values and beliefs and knowledge. Parents are the world's expert on their child. And when we assess children just in the clinic, we are not seeing them at home. and we're not paying attention to the things that the parents can tell us the children are able to do. And that's very important for us to know. That often reflects the children's best capacity. And we rarely see them at their best because they're in a different and sometimes frightening environment. And we need to stop having conflicts with parents and failing, as I have often done in the past, failing to trust them. We'll test the child, we'll ask the child to do something, they don't do it. The parent says, well, they do it at home. And we say, oh, yeah, of course they do. And we don't listen and don't trust and don't respect them. That is wrong. Parents see their children vastly more than we do. So, how do we do this? We need to be family centered. That means we need to listen to parents. We need to respect and value what they tell us. Make sure that we're understanding what they've said, so we can hear them talk, and then we can say, "Well, it sounds like you're saying X, Y, and Z," and they can say yes or no. I mean something else. We need to understand that this is their child. This is their predicament. And whatever expertise we have, we need to know how we can be helpful to them because these are their issues. We can ask about things like family. The parent we see is an adult, but they're also somebody's child. And the grandparent may be giving the parent advice, which is different from ours. We need to hear that. And we can have a lot of fun by inviting the parents to bring the grandparents or the aunt or the uncle with them to clinic so we can have a conversation with everybody together. I've done that many times and it's extremely helpful. I want to talk just a little bit about parenting, and I like to think of it as a dance led by the children. This idea came about probably 50 years ago with the notion of the way in which children do things that impact their parent. The parent is then changed in some way, and the changed parent now interacts with the child and changes the child. But the dance starts with the child. We used to think about parenting was something that parents did and the children did well, or the children didn't do well. And if the children were having problems, we blamed the parent. And this is outlined in the paper that I showed you at the beginning. This was not a very helpful way to do things. And we need to help parents understand this. If a child has a behavior issue, it is easy to blame the parents, but I have so often said to parents, if she lived at my house, she'd still be a challenging child because that's who she is in herself. And we need to be ready to help parents recognizing that what they bring to the dance is only part of the story. And if you want evidence of this difference in parenting from one child to another, ask parents of twins whether they parent all their children the same way. They will laugh and say no. And when you ask them why, they'll say, well, this one's very easy and this one's very temperamental. This one's outgoing and this one's shy. This one is active and this one likes to sit quietly. And so parents understand this idea, but pointing it out to them and helping them understand how much the child is leading the dance is very helpful to them. Parents want to parent, and we need to help them understand that we're not trying to fix things and make things normal. So we want to know how we can help parents support their children's development of functioning, doing things, however they are done. Using a walker to get around is something many parents and sometimes many professionals are unhappy about. But a walker allows children to move around their environment, to explore, to get into mischief, and to learn. And how that's done is not different from me wearing glasses in order to see well. I'm not going to get rid of my glasses and simply try to see better by trying harder. I'm going to use my glasses to support me to see. We don't talk about parenting very, very well. We too easily think about parents as the people who are going to do our therapies at home. And that has problems in many ways. And I've written a brief editorial about this, which I suggest you might want to look at because with our good intentions of having parents do therapy, we also are focusing on the problems the children have and missing the opportunity to help them develop and function well. Because we know that learning happens best in natural environments. The life course perspective I will talk about just briefly to say that children grow up and become adults. And if they have a neurodisability as a child, they grow up and have that neurodisability as an adult. And so thinking about helping children beyond the technical aspects of our therapy to develop independence, capability, self-confidence, the things that young people with disabilities need as they become older are issues that are much more than medical and therapy. They need help with social opportunities, vocation and training, housing, recreational opportunities, chances to develop personal relationships. And these needs are largely unmet in most places. So if you're doing this well, please share what you're doing and the lessons you've learned with the rest of the world. And just to show you that the ICF and F words framework that I showed you at the beginning is relevant to adults, colleagues have developed this with these pictures to show that the ideas we're talking about are every bit as important for adults. And even adults have a future that we need to think about. So, can we think about and plan ahead? Yes. Traditional approaches to early intervention have focused on promoting children's normal function and addressing their impairments. And as I said before, there are problems with this because we assume that the therapy is designed to improve functioning, and often we don't assess whether the therapy does that. This is an adult rehabilitation idea to help people return to a previous state of functioning. And that's really important for me if I've had a stroke. But for children, we're trying to promote development. So the things we can do are to think about and promote functioning, recognizing that as children develop, their functioning is likely to improve just as it does with typically developing children. We need to promote and encourage and allow independence because children learn by doing. They learn from trial and error. We want to have kids feel competent, self-confident, and have an I can attitude, even if they do things differently. And we need to get away from the idea of normal. Please stop talking about normal. It's a silly idea. There are lots of ways of doing things, and having a particular approach to how things should be done is very limiting for everybody. All of this can be done. I haven't provided much evidence to support what I'm saying, but that is possible to do. And I hope, having listened to this, you will now have questions and ideas and discussions which we can share together. Please don't be shy. Please share your ideas. Please challenge me because that's how I will learn and that's how everyone else will learn as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope we'll have a good conversation now.